So we're on The Great Gatsby, chapter 4, part B. So basically, Nick is completely shocked that he's met somebody who's responsible for such a huge, incredible criminal act, and he's got away with it. Can't believe that he's not in jail. And he says to Gatsby, why isn't he in jail? And Gatsby says they can't get him off sport. He's a smart man. So this is somebody who has connections, who can't be caught so easily. And Nick pays a check, and then they spot Tom Buchanan. And Nick realizes he's got to say hello to them. Tom comes towards them, and he says, "Why haven't you come? Daisy's furious because you haven't called up." And now Tom meets Gatsby for the first time, and Gatsby looks embarrassed. Okay, we understand why. Tom asks how he's been, and why he's here in New York eating, and he says, "I've been having lunch with this Mr. Gatsby." Turns around, and Gatsby's disappeared. So now we're on part 2 of the chapter. Okay, they're in. Jordan is telling a story. Okay, she is in a tea garden at the Plaza Hotel with Nick, and she is telling the whole story of Daisy. Okay, this story starts when Daisy is 18. Okay, and Jordan knows her. She was described as one of the most popular girls of all the young girls in Louisville. Louisville is in Kentucky, in the deep South, and everybody wants to be with her all the time. They're all chasing after her, and Jordan spots her sitting in a car with a lieutenant who she'd never seen before, and says they were so engrossed in each other that she didn't see me until I was five feet away. Engrossed means that they were completely absorbed with each other. When you're engrossed in something, it means that you're doing something with such concentration you don't notice anything else. Daisy says hi to Jordan, then we have the officer is looking at Daisy while she's speaking, and he's looking to her as every young girl wants to be looked at sometime, because he's so in love with her. Okay, this is what Jordan remembers. His name was Jay Gatsby, and I didn't lay eyes on him again for over 4 years. Even after I'd met him on Long Island, I didn't realise it was a man. So Jordan remembers Gatsby from 4 years ago. This is before he went and fought in the World War in 1917, and he had a love affair with Daisy before she was married. So Jordan's continuing with the story. She had a few boyfriends. She didn't see Daisy very often. Daisy went on with a slightly older crowd, and there were rumours about her. There were rumours that her mother had found her packing her bag one winter night to go to New York and say goodbye to a soldier who was going overseas. So this is that she was so in love with Gatsby that she was going to go to New York just to say goodbye to him, that her mother stopped her from doing it, and after that she didn't play around with soldiers anymore, but with just a few regular guys who couldn't get into the army. And then the next autumn she's happy again, and she comes out. She's she basically had a debut, means she came out officially that she was of marriageable age. She goes to all the dances so the men see her, and in February she was engaged to a man from New Orleans, and in June she married Tom Buchanan of Chicago, with more pomp and circumstance than Louisville had ever known before, meaning it was a very fancy wedding. Okay, and there was all private cars, huge wedding, very expensive, and Jordan was the bridesmaid. Very interesting. And she has this memory that she came into her just before the bridal dinner. This is just after she'd gotten married, I think. Found her lying on the bed, as lovely as a June night in her flowered dress and as drunk as a monkey. She got herself completely drunk. Why? Because she just got a letter from Jay Gatsby. So they kind of wake up. And she wakes up. She starts crying. They make a fuss of her. They give her a cold bath to sober her up. She's got this letter in her hand, and she won't let go of it until it's in a wet ball. It's completely, there's no letter anymore, and it falls to pieces. But then from that point on, they do all sorts of things to revive her. They get her dressed up, and everything's over and forgotten. Oh, sorry, the bridal dinner is before she gets married. Next day at 5:00, she married Tom Buchanan without so much as a shiver, and started off on a 3-month trip to the South Seas. So that is that. She is married to Tom. Jordan sees them when they come back from their 3 months away, and it looks like she's completely obsessed with him. As soon as he's out the room, she asks where he is, and it was really nice to see them together. That they seem to be very much in love. And then a week after I left Santa Barbara, Tom ran into a wagon on the Ventura Road one night and ripped the front wheel off. Again, another incident with a car. Ripped the wheel off his car. The girl who was with him got into the papers too because her arm was broken. She was one of the chambermaids in the Santa Barbara hotel. So Tom has already begun being unfaithful to Daisy. They have not been married for very long at all. So next April, Daisy has a girl, and they've gone to France for a year, and and then they went to settle down in Chicago. She was very popular in Chicago. So they moved with a fast crowd, all of them young and rich and wild. But she came out with an absolutely perfect reputation. It's because she was not one of the wild ones. She doesn't drink. And he says there are advantages when you don't drink when everyone else around you is drinking. So then 6 weeks ago, Jordan tells us Daisy hears the name Gatsby for the first time, and she kind of says, "What Gatsby?" Pretends that she doesn't know him, and then she says in a very strange voice that it must have been the man she used to know. And then Jordan connects this Gatsby with the officer in the car. So by the time Jordan's finished telling the story, they'd already left the Plaza Hotel. They're driving in a Victoria through Central Park. And Nick says, it's a strange coincidence that Gatsby has bought the house that Daisy lives opposite. And Jordan says, this is not a coincidence. He deliberately bought a house so that he would be opposite Daisy. So it says that he'd not been merely the stars to which he aspired on the June night. Okay, so he's aspiring. Aspiring is at least shof. So he is aspiring to something. He has a plan. He has a dream. And we heard about Gatsby being a dreamer before. And now Jordan says Gatsby wants to know if you'll invite Daisy to your house some afternoon and let him come over. And Nick's completely shocked. He's so shocked that Gatsby's waited 5 years, bought a mansion, and where he dispenses starlight to casual moths so he could come over. The whole reason why he does these parties and everything is in order that Daisy should notice him. And so Nick is kind of a bit shocked, and he's a bit worried about the whole thing. And also, why him? Why is he arranging to meet him in his house? Why can't she come to Gatsby's house? So it seems that Gatsby was waiting for Daisy to come to one of his parties, but it never happened. I think that's what Jordan says. And he kept on asking people casually if they knew her, and finally Jordan's the first person he found. So he has this plan now. And he wants to see her right next door. So this seems to be why Gatsby has gone after Nick. Okay? And Jordan says Daisy ought to have something in her life. She feels kind of bad for Daisy. Obviously Daisy's life with Tom is not so great. And he asks if Daisy wants to see Gatsby, and Jordan says she's not to know about it. So Gatsby really just wants it to be a surprise chance meeting. He's setting the whole thing up that they meet by chance. Nick is reminded that he doesn't have this dream of this girl who's been fantasizing about, but he has this very beautiful Jordan Baker in front of him, and then the love affair between, I would call it the love affair, the relationship starts between Nick and Jordan.